Good afternoon, everyone. I'm delighted to be here, delighted to have the opportunity to share with you some of the research that I'm doing. I'm at the Dublin Institute of Technology. I'm an academic in the School of Surveying and Construction Management, and I'm also a visiting professor at Oklahoma University in the US, where I actually teach sustainable construction to construction management or construction science students. So I'm very involved in an organisation called the Associated Schools of Construction, which is the representative body of construction management educators worldwide, but most particularly in North America and the US, where there are 7 regions. And the 8th region is outside of the US, as it's the rest of the world, but mainly it's actually Europe. And a lot of UK universities are members, along with a couple of universities in Ireland and some from the mainland Europe. So that's just a little bit of background to me. In DIT, I teach building materials and environmental elements of construction. We don't necessarily call it sustainable construction. But I want to share with you some of the research I've been doing with some of my colleagues in the US at Oklahoma in terms of looking at embedding sustainable competencies in the graduate. So when they actually come out into the industry, they're actually able to hit the ground running in terms of their sustainability competencies. And I suppose just in terms of what I want to go through, I just want to share with you some of the research in terms of the literature that we found in terms of sustainability and sustainability education. Some of the research we're doing in terms of industry feedback and student feedback. Potential frameworks in terms of where we want to take this in terms of a framework that might be able to help built environment educators, and maybe some further research. So that's really the outline of what I want to share with you. The literature is quite interesting. It's telling us a lot of the literature on curriculum developments is saying that at undergraduate level we have a crowded curriculum. So that poses a question in terms of where sustainability is actually going to fit into that crowded curriculum. We have BIM requirements, we now have professional requirements from professional bodies, we have issues in relation to making sure our graduates have the competencies and the knowledge and the skill when they go out into the profession, which as you all know, as practitioners and people in academia out there, there's a lot of things happening, there's a lot of change, there's a lot of policy changes, building regulations are changing and the like. So there's a lot going on in terms of that. There is a perceived irrelevance from some academics in the literature in terms of how and why you embed actual sustainability into your program. Certainly I found that hard to actually deal with in terms of getting an understanding of that, but actually the next phase of research is talking both to academics and people in industry, so we may unfold some of that in terms of the attitude in relation to that. Limited institutional commitment to sustainability, but Fidelis this morning was giving a very good example of sustainable universities, and there is a movement, and in the United States there's a body who are actually moving sustainable universities forward and looking at ways of embedding sustainability in the curriculum across all undergraduate and all postgraduate programs. So Fideli's paper is really good in terms of getting an example of what they're doing down in Africa in terms of embedding it in the university practices. Limited commitment from industry stakeholders. There isn't that commitment to come into institutions and share ideas around sustainability and what's happening out in practice. So maybe there needs to be a better link between industry and academia. It's quite good in the university that I'm associated with in the States. There's an advisory board, and the advisory board, and a lot of universities in the States have this, the industry representatives on the advisory board, and they keep the program up to date in terms of things that are happening in the industry. It's a really, really positive thing. It does take time, it does take effort, it does take commitment from the industry, but they do have quite a big say in relation to that. And then there's the element of too demanding. Okay, so I suppose encapsulating that is the headings on the right there. It's paradigmatic, it's psychological, policy, should policy drive it? There's structural elements in relation to it, certainly resource implications, and the lack of direction from industry. So that's really just in a nutshell, haven't given the references in relation to it, but if people want to talk to me about the underpinning research that we found, I'm happy to share and talk about that. I just wanted to give you just a synopsis of what we're finding. The methodological approach, we're taking a mixed methods approach to looking at all of this. So we're quantifying by surveys. So what I've done already is I've surveyed the students in Oklahoma. As I mentioned, I am teaching sustainable construction to second years and third years, sophomores and juniors, in the one class together, which is an interesting mix. And I actually surveyed them last February in relation to their attitudes to sustainability, because I knew I would be teaching them in the fall. So I got a snapshot, and I'll show you some of the responses in a moment. So I got a snapshot there, and we surveyed internationally students across architecture, engineering and construction. And we got in the order of 400 responses in relation to that. So we have a good body of data that we're actually looking at and manipulating at the moment. And we also surveyed industry and got 100 responses from industry from around the world. So it's a global study. It's interesting in terms of the feedback coming back, and we're deciphering that data as we go. Going on then, the next stages will be to do focus groups and individual interviews with the OU students, with select groups internationally, and then with the industry obviously as well, just to actually feed in and actually identify and tease out some of the issues that have been identified in the actual surveys. So it's ongoing work. But there you can see the backgrounds. I just highlighted one comment from each. I got 40 responses from the students. There's 40 students in the class, so I actually got 100% representation in terms of the survey. But this is what the students are coming up with, before they actually do a sustainability module. Sustainability is the product and solution to years of mistreating our environment. Throughout periods of industrialization to modernity, we have polluted our earth. This is a 20-year-old American student indicating that. I thought that was really, really interesting. And I'm really looking forward to unpacking that a bit more with them. To be self-sufficient entity that produces at least the same amount of energy that it intakes, a structure that runs on the resources that it produces and potentially has excess resources that can give back to the community. Again, there's certainly a sense there that this person actually has thought about this and actually has a feeling that community is important. And so again, there's other comments in the background there that I'm kind of giving it to you. Then there's the straightforward ones: renewable, independent, freestanding, clean energy. And obviously I would be quite interested to find out what they mean by freestanding. So hopefully the next phase of the research will actually identify that. Something that lasts and is self-sufficient. Again, maybe what the understanding around self-sufficiency is in terms of getting an understanding of that will be quite interesting in the next phase. I suppose what it is telling us is that depending on where you're at a particular time, as a layperson, as a consumer, as a policymaker, as an educator, sometimes one is an educator and at other times you're a consumer, and what's one's position in relation to sustainability. And certainly it means different things to different people, and it's very, very complex. And our discussions over the last 2 days have certainly led me to deeper thoughts around the technical aspects of it and how complex that is. Okay, the industry survey has thrown up some interesting findings. 80% have been involved. 85% have been involved in sustainable related projects. Okay, so that's quite interesting in terms of the response rate of 100. So 85 of them have been involved at some stage, they believe, in a sustainable project, whatever that might be. And again, the next phase of the research might unpack that a bit further. 75% believe graduates should have sound knowledge of sustainability, and 66% believe current graduates have deficiencies in regard to their knowledge about sustainability. So we have a job of work here to do to actually make sure our graduates are going out actually more understanding in relation to that. 42% of respondents said they require employees to attend sustainability-related training, which I think is really good. Possibly could be higher, but it's actually good to see that these companies are investing in their employees in terms of bringing them up to speed. And I suppose it's the debate around education and training. We're in higher education, we're involved in education, but certainly in the industry, small chunks of work and training is certainly in the training domain. Okay, so again, looking at the literature, looking at my own experiences in terms of what's happening. Well, some areas are embedding it in the curriculum. Okay, it's right across the curriculum. So there's a decision at program level to actually make sure that sustainability is discussed in all facets of the modules that they teach. That's an approach. Okay. So in some instances, it's driven by program accreditation. So certainly in the US, the Association of Construction Education do accreditations to programs, and programs are keen to have accreditation. It means that then their professionals, when they go out, they're actually viewed in the industry as having a good quality of experience and knowledge. So in that regard, the ACC, in their accreditation process, they require sustainability to be a course. Hence, I'm teaching in OU. It's a one credit hour. So there's a requirement to have a minimum of 1 credit hour in a semester, where students get access to a prescribed curriculum on sustainability. Okay. There's certainly innovative teaching practices going out there in terms of academics engaging, and I've seen lots of different case studies. We've had case studies at the conference here ourselves in relation to that. Some programs are looking at it in terms of rolling change and getting expertise in to deliver it when they don't actually have the expertise. And there are opportunities out there, and I want to share some of these with you in relation to learning outside the program. And certainly, you know, it can be a debate in relation to whether students have to supplement what it is they do in the program with experience from outside. And some of the experiences that I've been involved with are student competitions. So as I mentioned, ASC, Associated Schools of Construction, have 7 regions in the States and the European region, and the 7th region in the States all run competitions, often design build, commercial, heavy civil and the like. But the design build is where a team of 6 come together, and in a 16-hour period, I do the region 5 one, which is Texas, Arkansas, Louisiana and Oklahoma. So we actually work with 3 students from Oklahoma and 3 students from Ireland, DIT in Ireland, and they work together for a period of time. And in February we go over to Oklahoma and we do the competition. We go for a week and the students do the competition. It's a 16-hour lockdown, so they get an RFP in the morning, 8 AM, and they work until midnight, and they have to turn in their work at midnight. And then the next day we travel from Oklahoma to the central location for the competition in Dallas, and on the Monday then they make a presentation to the judges who are industry. So a massive experience. They pack a whole 3, 4, 5, maybe 6 month, 10 month project into 16 hours. But they actually get a great experience. What the slide is showing there is the 2015 team. So this person, and this person were Oklahomian, and the other 3 were from DIT. They came together as a team. There's a project architect, a design manager, cost estimator, scheduler, superintendent, and they actually come up with this problem here to actually design a school in Plano, Texas, and it's a real life project. And they schedule it out, cost it out, and they go and make the pitch for the job down in Dallas. Okay, and that particular group of people came second in the competition. So, like, you know, it's a great experience. The winning is a separate in terms of the separate for me is the actual education experience that they get. And 17 of the 21 students I've brought to Oklahoma over the years, been doing it for 7 years now. 17 of them are actually working internationally. So there was one guy in Los Angeles, head of real estate for Hewlett Packard, for example, having started in Ireland. You know, so they end up with actually, you know, real opportunities in afterwards. So I suppose this is. I mentioned that they go to Oklahoma, but this slide here shows a Skype meeting in my office in the middle of November, where the students actually Skype, and you can possibly see on the screen there. These are the students in Oklahoma. So at 6 PM every Tuesday between October and February, we actually have a Skype meeting and we discuss the project and get an understanding of the things that we need to work on as a group. We set up a Dropbox and everything is shared in Dropbox. So it's outside of the curriculum. It's a huge commitment, but I have to say the learning is immense. This one here is ARUP's, and you'd all be familiar with ARUP's. ARUP sponsor a college-wide competition that we do. So the architects, engineers, construction managers, quantity surveyors in Dublin Institute of Technology come together and they actually work on a project and they submit it in a 4-week period. So it's a smaller scale effort. But my view in relation to that is I'm succession planning for the competition by actually engaging at college level to get that engagement. And again, it seems to be working and paying dividends in terms of student experience. Just some thoughts in terms of the research that I'm doing and where it's going. And I suppose, you know, we want to have the future leaders in construction, because they're the people we're actually educating. You know, in 20 or less years' time, they will be ones making decision about construction. So we need to educate them now in ways that they will be able to be informed and give them the principles and underpinnings around that. Okay? And I suppose we need to think about what educational experience we give them in relation to that. You know, what do we actually expose them to, and how does that impact on what they're doing? Okay? There certainly is a need to understand what their education experience prior to coming to us is. And there's huge work going on in primaries and secondary schools in relation to embedding sustainable development in the curricula. We need to be aware of that. And certainly I get upset at times with some of my colleagues when they talk about the students that come into us. We have a leaving cert, which is the final secondary school examination round. And they talk about the leaving cert in a way that they did it themselves back maybe 10, 15, 20 years ago, where it was just exam orientated. And the experience second level students get now is more than that. It's more holistic, and they do get exposure to sustainability and the likes. But they actually treat the students when they come in that they actually have done this state exam, 3-hour exams for maybe 10 or 12 subjects, or 7 or 8 subjects depending on the student, and that they're not really fit to be able to actually hit the ground running and be able to problem solve and do projects. They do projects out in second level. You know, they call it something different, but they actually do it. And we need to be aware of that in terms of what we actually ask our students to do. I'm reminded of a conversation I had with one of my colleagues who's in the environmental management area. And what they did in the first week was they actually they brought all the students together and they did a project and designed a problem in relation to moving electrical cables on a project. You know, students came in with no knowledge of electricity or whatever. They got together in teams and they worked together and solved the problem. It was about problem solving, it was about interdisciplinarity, so that was really positive. And the academic was really distressed because what happened the next week was they had all their courses, never the twain would meet again, so they never met each other again. So they were back in their silos, they weren't actually interacting with each other. You know. Those experiences, you know, shouldn't be there. Chrissy spoke earlier about collaboration. That's where the industry is at. BIM is driving us that direction, Lean is driving us that direction, clients' projects are driving us that direction. We need to engage our students in that type of approach. It is very messy. It's very hard to handle in terms of how you assess that. You know, it's nice to be able to go in and deliver your lecture and then do an exam at the end. That's the whole lot bundled up, you know. And I have thoughts on that, but I won't go into those today. Just the final thing then is to develop a framework that will actually help academics, industry and the like in terms of how we embed construction competencies in built environment education. We need to have an understanding of what students are exposed to in their education, their life's journey that far. I was taken by Professor Skipworth's comment this morning, borrowing from future generations in terms of the energy we're using today. Well, do we need to give to the future generations a significant learning experience that will actually allow them to behave and contribute to society and leave the world in a better place than they found it? I think we have a responsibility to do that as an educator. That will be my kind of position, philosophical position as an educator. We have to do that. We need to do that. Okay. So the debate, whether we do it at embedding it in the program or whether we use it as standalone courses, that's really program decision. That can be influenced by literature, but it is really a matter for programs to decide that. But we do have a responsibility to our students. Future orientated professions will be required to have a different skill set than we have today, in terms of dealing with the way we do things in the future. Okay? Happy to take questions.